All right. All right. Hey, everybody. As you know, I'm Heather, and this is the conversation series I'm calling Connecting with Purpose, the global conversation to help people doing interesting things connect and help create the world that we dream of. And today I've been talking with Gianna, who is this awesome high school gal who reached out. She's got a cool program called Grounds of Change, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And so she asked me some really cool questions, and now I'm going to ask her some cool questions. And I guess first, just Gianna, do you want to just say like 30 seconds or a minute of who you are and what Grounds of Change is? Kind of like what you described to me in the first blurb.
Yeah. So I am a 17-year-old girl from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and basically what Grounds of Change is me reaching out to world changers from everywhere and hearing their stories from when they were in high school to now. So I, a couple years ago, was lucky enough to meet the founder of Beverly's Birthdays here in Pittsburgh, and what they do is they throw birthday parties for children experiencing homelessness or children in need. And the founder, her name is Megs, and like I said, I got to speak with her about her story from high school to where she is now, and I realized the first half of the story is not different from mine at all. She went to geometry class. She went to the Friday night football game, same thing as I'm doing right now. And then she went off to go make this crazy, awesome impact. So I went on a mission to find 100 more people doing the same thing that my peers can see themselves in. So yeah, I FaceTime people, listen to their stories, then post blogs about it. So yeah.
I love it. And like I'll definitely link to it, and I'll even do like a little write up on my blog too, so it's on my website
Awesome. Thank you.
permanently. But I'm curious. So I kind of have this is evolving. This is like a new project for me. So I
Yeah.
have some similar questions, but I love this because it'll just be so unique to where you are in your life. And I'm maybe the first question that I'm going to go with here is what passions do you have? Like what skills or what talents do you really love about yourself that you are currently using or you want to use in your life?
Cool, awesome. So definitely one of my top passions is people. I absolutely love talking and I love meeting new people. I always have since I was little. I have two older brothers and both of them are kind of quiet, and I was always the third one who just never stopped talking. And so in my high school, I go to a pretty large school. I have a class of 500 kids, and my kind of goal from the first day of freshman year was, okay, I want to meet all of these people and hear their stories. And through the past 2 years, I've gotten to know a lot of people, and especially this year, I kind of led some giving back campaigns in my high school. We did something called Trick or Treatment, where we went, instead of asking for candy, we asked for donations of childhood cancer. And we've had some breakfast parties where we had to bring a pair of pajamas for a kid in need, and then we had donuts. And I think since I've been able to meet these new people and kind of create bonds with them, I can help bring them together to make change, and also kind of prove the point that high schoolers do care. People just don't always ask us what we care about. So yeah.
Totally. I know. I love hearing like what you're just saying. Sorry, it says my internet connection is unstable, which happens from time to time. Let's see. Who knows? I never know if it really disrupts anything, but in any case, it seems to be back now. But like just you describing things, I love that. It's you asked me kind of right what were some things I did in high school, and those kinds of we did one for sad and other things, but you're so right. Like those experiences where we connect with other people and like we're expanding our energy outside. I think, yeah, I know I felt that way too as like a high school student. It's just reminding me of that. Like, wait, I like care about things and I have like a brain and kind of wanting to be taken. I don't know if taken seriously is the right word. Does that feel right? Or just wanting to be like heard?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think taken seriously, first off, like we can kind of come together just as well as a group of adults. They're kind of just us grown up. So I think one, taken seriously, but also to be heard, because I know my generation, we've grown up. We don't know how it's like to not have a phone, to not have basically our whole lives on social media. And also my high school, our whole thing, we had to worry more about school shooting drills than fire drills. And I think that was something new, but also we're the generation that's gotten that, but I think we got it for a reason and we can stand up for it too. So if that makes sense. But
yeah, no, it's what things that are kind of coming to my mind in a way are like, of course, the climate change.
Yeah, that too.
Dialogue stuff and seeing, high school students, Greta has kind of been like the face of it, but I think it's like place and time, which is great. But also that, yeah, these issues are things you've like just been born into. And like I mentioned in my interview with you, I think we're all born into different issues, like place and time. And it's just, what are we kind of doing with them? And I'm wondering, do you feel, because like going through coming from the climate change perspective, there's a lot of anger coming out of that movement, which is totally understandable. And like, I've definitely been there. Like, anger about the state of our planet is an emotion that I've worked through a lot in order to get to a place of like feeling like my voice matters. I can put my feet forward, and like solutions and optimism exist. Like that's like, is a big thing for me, for sure. So I totally get the anger. I'm wondering, like, are there things like, what do you feel like fear or anger about in the world today? It could
me personally, or like just
you.
I think the climate, so no one teaches us about that in high school. I mean, we take like biology and things like that, but that's never something that's taught about. So we kind of just see it on social media, but social media isn't always the truth either. And we've kind of never really been taught, oh, this is true, this is actually happening, or this isn't true, this isn't happening, because there's different articles coming out every day, and usually the scariest ones get shared the most. So I think kind of what makes me mad is we're kind of expected to go out and make an impact, but no one really teaches us exactly what we need to make the impact for and how to make it. I think climate change is really scary, and I think also people have told us, oh, like the planet's going to be over by the time you turn 30, which is just, as a high schooler, especially if they've never been taught one thing about it, if someone says that to you, it's just like, whoa, like that's crazy. And I think also what makes me mad is that we have had times in my high school where they've had to open up the guidance counselor's office for kids to go talk about how they were scared to go to school. I don't, like, that's just something to me, like, with school should never be something that you're scared of. But yeah, those are a couple of things. It sometimes makes me mad that people don't think that my generation cares as much as they do, because especially like I could walk into a home. So my high school, we have home rooms. So like my junior class is separated alphabetically by each room. And my whole method this year, I would just go walk in the home room and kind of tell them about like trick or treatment, what I was doing. And every single one of them, they took their headphones out, or they looked up from what they were doing, and they wanted to listen. And if they could do something, they would actually do it. So I think we need some more credit sometimes, but yeah.
Yeah. Gosh, there's so many things you say that I relate to, as like being a millennial and part of that generation. I think it's almost just like what happens, right? Like a couple generations up, they're like, oh, that generation doesn't care, they're entitled, or, whatever the buzzword is of the time. Yeah, it's so interesting. I don't really know that I have anything specific out of it. I just can in some ways relate. And I think it's really powerful what you're saying about like the narratives that the media are telling us, but I feel a similar way. Like when I was in school, I didn't learn. I mean, I learned about like global warming. I learned about, greenhouse gas effects. I learned all these things. I grew up in a very, like, where I grew up, it's industrial farming, but it's still very tied to the nature of the environment. Do you get rain? Do you not? Like things, right? But it's like I learned about things like climate change and the danger of these things from documentaries or from social media, which by that time was a thing. But it's reminding me of a lot of the work that I've started doing in the Maldives. I was mentioning to you this, and that, like, I think I don't know if it's like a fear mongering media that's trying to get like adults, I don't know, people to act, but we kind of forget about this, like what's the other side of that? And I'm bringing up the Maldivians because I have a friend who's an artist. His name is Shaf, and I was interviewing him, and he was saying, like, it's kind of hopeless being Maldivian because all you hear in the news and the media is that in 20 to 50 years, like for them, like their home is going to be gone. Like they're going to have nowhere to live. And it reminds me of when you were talking of that same kind of idea of like, you have these messages like, oh, in 30 years, the planet's going to be destroyed. And it's like these really doomsday things that are intended to like light fires. But when it's people who are, I mean, for me too, right? In that many years, the planet's gone. But I think as a teenager, you're 20 years younger than I am, like that's just a whole different mindset. And so whether it's Maldivians or people living in these extremely vulnerable geographic locations or generations who are hearing these messages, I'm just really glad to like hear your perspective. I'm just verbally reflecting. Do you have any sense of like a dream? How would you, I don't know, what kind of world would you dream of? If it's having to do with the way that we're receiving messages or the way you want to use your skills, like, what do you dream about?
So my dreams, they kind of change every single day. But one thing I've been thinking about recently was that, so because of the virus and everything, my school's kind of shut down for a little bit. So I've had a lot of extra time on my hands, and I've done a lot of work with Grounds of Change and like researching new people. And it's so much easier for me to find someone that falls in the category of bad people who have done just bad things than good people completely. It's actually somewhat difficult to find people making a difference. Not difficult, but it takes way more effort to find people doing good than to find people doing bad. So I think a dream would be where you can find them both evenly, or actually find the people doing awesome things for our planet, for the people on it, easier. So
yeah, which it makes total sense why you're doing Grounds of Change. I'm curious, how are you feeling now, like in this time of pandemic? What is your like kind of, what's your emotional, your mental state? How are you feeling?
A couple of things. I think it's kind of scary. I mean, from being just in a high school perspective, like we went to school on Friday and then now it's just canceled for a while, which is just kind of, I don't know, that's never happened to any of us before. So we're kind of like, okay, like time to start some online school. But I also think it's been really cool to watch how many people are stepping up for each other. And I think the media has actually done somewhat a good job showing the people, because if you, like for this, you can find the people that are going shopping for their elderly neighbors, or they're sending cards to people, or they're writing letters and putting it in their neighbor's mailbox that says, hey, if you need anything, like I'll go help you, and just things like that, which I think has been really cool to see. So yeah, a little scary, but it's also cool because we were talking about it. We have a test called the PSSAs in Pennsylvania. That's basically the spring that everyone takes, and I don't know, I guess it says how good your school's doing or something. But a joke we have right now is like, oh, well, in maybe 20 years from now, when our kids come home after they took that test, the prompt will be about the coronavirus, and we'll get to talk to them about when we lived through it. So that's kind of cool, but yeah.
Yeah. No, it is such an interesting time. It's I mean I kind of agree with you. We're seeing this. Of course there's a lot of like hardship, and every single person is dealing with loss in some way, whether it's like the loss of health or the loss of normalcy, or whatever it is. But in that, like, we're all connected. And it kind of reminds me of, I read the Book of Joy, written by the Dalai Lama and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And they talk about, specifically the Dalai Lama talks about that when we're in times of anxiety or fear or unknown, actually a way to help ourselves feel better is to look at the shared suffering almost of our fellow people. And that's kind of like, in a way, as you're talking, I'm thinking, yeah, it's like weird for you because now this routine and whatever sense of normalcy from school is shifted. And for me, like, I can't go home. The borders of my home I mean, I'm American, but I live in the Netherlands. Like, I can't go home. My dog is stuck there and I'm here. So it's just like, we're all just trying to figure it all out. And finding these little bits of things that are cool, right? Because it's all relative. I don't know. Sometimes I feel guilty finding the appreciation in something because I know other people are having their own unique difficult time. But I have a friend who always says, like, two truths can exist at the same time. I can feel compassion and sympathy for my own grieving, for the grieving that other people are going through, and I can feel hope for something in the future. And I think that this is just such a great example of whether we're talking about climate change or talking about trying to find the people who are doing good in the world. Like, it can be hard and exciting. It can be emotional and hopeful all at the same time. And that's just like human condition.
Yeah.
So tell me if I already asked you this question, because I did one of these interviews right before you. So sometimes, I forget. But so as you're talking about what you kind of dream of, the things you think of in the world, and how you love people and want to like help people connect, did I ask you about like if you feel like any sort of barriers to that?
No, you didn't.
Okay, so yeah, do you feel any barriers, like whatever that means?
Actually, not really right now, because I've kind of, again, with the whole, I grew up in social media, I also realized, like, wow, I can really get connected with almost anyone if I just kind of figure out the right way on, like, Instagram or something like that. I think right now, where I am, just kind of junior in high school, I don't see any barriers, but I think that when I cross them, I think I'll lean on the people that I've got to meet now to get me through it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, it's just great. And the thing is you mentioned it, I don't remember about something else, but just that stuff always changes, day to day. And so, exactly, like leaning on the networks that we build, the people we have, the experiences. And I think that's one of the really awesome parts about what you're doing. And you're doing so many things. I'm relating it to my life, and that the more things I do and like prove to myself I've done it, then the more experiences I have for like when I meet, whether the barrier is like something emotional or something external or whatever it is, it's like, oh yeah, but Heather, you figured out all these things already. Like, you can do it. Okay, this is just really cool. My mind always does things where maybe yours does this too. It's like, oh, as I hear information, I'm constantly like,
yeah.
And like, oh, what? And then what I'm hearing from you is finding people who are doing really interesting things, like wanting to help bring their story out. I feel like a shared passion in that with you. And I also am hearing that just the way the world is, and sort of this disconnect perhaps between, I don't know, the non-high school, non-student world and the student world. Do you have any thoughts on I don't know, maybe how to help bridge that, or things that you would like what could I do, or what do you want to see the world do to help you like elevate your story?
Kind of in all honesty, just share, especially people doing things awesome for the world, just share what you're doing and ask for their help. Because like I said, when I walk into the homerooms, they all take their headphones out and they look up from doing their homework and they want to know how they can make an impact. And I think it'd be the same way if you walked into my high school and shared what you were doing. Kids would be like, oh my goodness, I'll join you. This is awesome. So I think, yeah, just kind of tell your story.
Yeah. And you know what? Ask for the dang help. This has been like a recurring method or like story for me. It's like I learned how to ask for help in a lot of settings. Now I'm like the one who's reflecting, of course, on this conversation. It's always just ask.
Yeah.
I had a professor who told me one time, like, Heather, just ask for it. And her perspective was that women tend to not ask for help as much as men. I don't know if that's like still true in like your generation, but just the way that the narratives between men and women have evolved, and that yeah, and for me growing up in the Midwest, I don't know for you, but sometimes asking for help, right, is seen as like weakness in a way. So I don't know, but I love that. Now I'm gonna think like, okay, what can I do? Like, can we do something like with your class, or have a conversation just about things? Because I think um yeah, we all have such an important role and a fun role, right? Like this is fun. It's fun
Oh
meeting people and
yeah.
hanging out. So I don't know, maybe let's do this again, or find a way to um I don't know, connect some things I've got going on, or things that I know of, and
Awesome.
like
Yeah.
people from your high school. How long is your school in session? Like,
Well,
when
we're
do you,
in session till May, but right now we don't really know because of
yeah.
everything that's going on. We start online school on Monday, but we have no idea if we'll be returning to school or not. But then we start again in September. So
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know. Let's just let that percolate and see what happens. For me, this conversation series is about talking with folks and then letting the connection spark,
yeah,
and then maybe bringing some people together. So after this conversation, I'm not sure exactly who, but I've been thinking, oh, are there people in media? Are there, well, like, who else can I loop into this conversation to hear what you're working on? You can hear what they're like, just, the more we connect, you said it exactly. It's like bring people together to do cool things.
exactly.
So, okay, well, do you have anything else you want to say?
Not really. No, that was off. Thank you. That was awesome.
Great, awesome. Thank you too. This
Can
was really
we?
fun, and I'll stop the recording if you want to like hang on for a second. But everyone else, like if you felt sparked by any of this, like no matter what your age, just hit me up, and let's loop you into the conversation and see what we can do together.
Yeah, sounds good.